Hey everyone, have you ever felt a gaze on the back of your neck, even when you know you're completely alone? It's a primal fear, isn't it? That sense of being observed, of something unseen, knowing you. For me, it started subtly. A shiver in an otherwise warm room. The feeling of a draft when all the windows were sealed shut. I chalked it up to stress, maybe a bit of an overactive imagination. Living alone in an old Japanese house, a kominka, definitely has its moments. The creaking floorboards, the way the wind whispers through the paper screens, it all lends itself to a spooky atmosphere. I even enjoyed it in a way, a little bit of delicious unease. But then things escalated. It began with the tatami mats. You know, the ones, woven straw, with that distinct, earthy smell. These were old, worn smooth in places, telling silent stories of generations who had walked and slept on them. One evening, I was sitting on the floor, working on my laptop when I heard it. A faint whisper. At first, I dismissed it. The wind, maybe the pipes in the walls. But it happened again, and again. A low, sibilant sound, like someone speaking just below the threshold of hearing. I strained my ears, trying to make out words, but it was just a constant, murmuring whisper, seemingly emanating from the floor itself. I got up, my heart started to thump a little faster. I pressed my ear to the tatami. Nothing. I moved to another section of the room. There it was again. Faint, persistent, like the rustling of dry leaves in a distant forest. Have you ever experienced something so strange that your brain refuses to accept it? That was me. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe there was some kind of insect living under the mats, making a strange noise. I even pulled up a corner of one of the tatami, peering into the dark space beneath. Dust, a few stray crumbs, nothing that could explain the whispering. Over the next few days, it got worse. The whispers became clearer, though still just below my comprehension. It felt like someone was trying to tell me something, their voice just out of reach. It started to affect my sleep. I'd lie in bed, the silence of the night punctuated by this faint, unsettling murmur coming from the floorboards. One particularly unnerving night, I woke up to find a small object lying on the tatami next to my futon. It was a child's toy, a wooden spinning top, painted with faded images of mythical creatures. I didn't own any children's toys. I hadn't had any visitors in weeks. Where had it come from? The whispering that night was louder, more insistent. It felt closer. I picked up the spinning top. It was cold to the touch, despite the warm room. As I held it, I thought I heard a single, clear word woven in the murmuring. Ku. Return. Return? Return what? To whom? The question swirled in my mind, a growing sense of dread tightening in my chest. I started researching old Japanese folklore, focusing on tales of houses, spirits, and strange occurrences. I spent hours online, poring over ancient texts and modern-day accounts of unexplained phenomena. I was looking for anything that could explain the whispering tatami, the mysterious toy. I stumbled upon a local legend, a story whispered among the older residents of the town. It spoke of a family who had lived in my house generations ago. They had a young daughter who tragically died in the house. The legend said that her spirit remained tied to the very fabric of the building, her sadness and longing woven into the floorboards. Could it be her? Was she trying to communicate with me? And what did Kira mean? The next day, I decided to explore the house more thoroughly. It was a traditional layout, with sliding doors and hidden alcoves. In one of the back rooms, behind a heavy wooden panel I hadn't noticed before, I found a small, dusty shrine. It was dedicated to a child. A faded photograph showed a young girl with wide, sad eyes, clutching a wooden spinning top just like the one I had found. My blood ran cold. Beneath the photograph was a small, wooden box. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside, nestled on a bed of yellowed silk, was a single, dried flower and a small, folded piece of paper. I carefully unfolded the paper. Written in elegant, faded script were just a few words. Anata no nami wa. Your name is. The whispering started again, louder than ever before. It felt like it was right next to me, inside my head. And this time, I could almost make out the words. They were soft, mournful, and filled with an unbearable longing. Kuru, return, return. But return what? And why was she asking for my name? The question on the faded paper echoed in the silence of the dusty room. Anata no name wa. Your name is. Why would a ghost ask for my name? It sent a fresh wave of unease through me, a feeling far colder than any draft. The whispering continued, a constant, low thrum that seemed to vibrate through the very air. Kiriko. I carefully placed the note back in the wooden box, my mind racing. Was she asking me to return something? Was my name somehow connected to her past? Over the next few days, the activity intensified. The whispers were no longer confined to the tatami. I started hearing them in other parts of the house, in the kitchen as I made tea, in the bathroom while I showered, even in the garden as I tended to the small patch of bamboo. They were always just at the edge of my hearing, a constant, murmuring presence. The spinning top reappeared in different places. On my pillow, on the kitchen counter. Once, I found it spinning silently in the middle of the living room floor, even though there was no breeze. It felt like a macabre game, a silent, unsettling invitation. Then came the dreams. Vivid, disturbing visions of a young girl, her face obscured by shadow, standing in the doorway of my bedroom. She would reach out a small, pale hand towards me, her lips moving silently. When I would try to speak, to ask her name, the whispering would intensify, drowning out any sound. I would wake up in a cold sweat, the feeling of her unseen gaze lingering in the darkness. Have you ever felt like you're losing your grip on reality? That the world around you is subtly shifting, becoming something else? That's how I felt. The line between the mundane and the supernatural was blurring, and I was starting to question my own sanity. I tried talking to people, but how do you explain whispering floorboards and ghostly children's toys? They think I was crazy. So I kept it to myself, delving deeper into the local history, trying to find any connection to the girl in the photograph. I visited the local library, a charming old building with creaking wooden shelves. I spent hours poring over old newspapers and local history books. I learned more about the family who had lived in my house. Their name was Tanaka. The young daughter's name was Hannah. She had died tragically from a sudden illness at the age of 7. There was no mention of any other children in the family. No twins, no siblings, just Hannah. The word Kiru kept echoing in my mind. Return. Return what? My name? Why? One afternoon, while cleaning the dusty shrine, I noticed something I had missed before. Tucked away behind the photograph was another small piece of paper. It was older, more brittle than the first. Carefully, I unfolded it. This note was also in Japanese, written in a shaky, almost childlike hand. It read, "Watashi no name wa Anata desu." My name is you. The words hit me like a physical blow. My name is you. What did that mean? Suddenly, fragments of memories, long buried and forgotten, began to surface. Fleeting images of a different life, a different childhood. A small, traditional Japanese house. A loving family. A feeling of familiarity that was both comforting and deeply unsettling. I remembered playing in the garden, chasing butterflies. I remembered the smell of miso soup cooking in the kitchen. I remembered a small, wooden spinning top, painted with faded images of mythical creatures. These were my memories. Or were they? My childhood was different. I grew up in a Western country, in a modern house with different parents. Or so I thought. The whispering intensified, swirling around me like a vortex. Kiriko. I looked at the photograph of Hannah again. Her wide, sad eyes seemed to pierce through me, recognizing something. Something I couldn't quite grasp. I went to my laptop, my hand shaking. I typed in my name, followed by Tanaka family. I scrolled through the search results, my breath catching in my throat. There it was. An old family registry, digitized and available online. I found the entry for the Tanaka family who had lived in my house. There was the father, the mother, and 2 daughters. Hannah and another daughter. My name. But the birthday for the second daughter was the same as Hannah's. And next to her name was a single, chilling character, Bu, meaning deceased. Twins. Hannah had a twin sister who had also died young. A twin sister with my name. The realization hit me with the force of a physical impact. The whispering. The toy. The question about my name. The note, my name is you. Have you ever thought about the possibility of past lives? Of souls being reborn, carrying fragments of their previous existence? What if I wasn't who I thought I was? What if I was the reincarnation of Hannah's twin sister? And what if Hannah's spirit knew? Was she asking me to return to her, to remember? The whispering became almost deafening. It felt like a chorus of voices, all murmuring the same word. Kuh. I looked around the room, my perception of everything shifting. The old house, which had felt so foreign at first, now seemed strangely familiar. The tatami mats, the paper screens, the dusty shrine. It all felt like pieces of a puzzle I was only just beginning to understand. Suddenly, I felt a cold touch on my shoulder. I spun around, but there was no one there. The whispering stopped. The room was silent, save for the gentle rustling of leaves outside the window. But the feeling of being watched, of being known, was stronger than ever. And in the silence, I heard a single, clear whisper right next to my ear. "Oh, Kiri, welcome home." The whisper hung in the air, a gentle caress that sent shivers down my spine. "Welcome home." The words resonated deep within me, stirring something ancient and familiar. The fragmented memories from before, the garden, the kitchen, the spinning top, flooded back, sharper and more vivid now. It wasn't just a feeling of familiarity. It was a sense of belonging, of having returned to a place I had known intimately. But Hannah was gone. Her spirit, it seemed, was still tethered to this house, waiting for me. Over the next few days, the whispering subsided. The spinning top no longer appeared in random places. The dream stopped. It was as if Hannah's spirit had found some measure of peace, now that I knew, now that I remembered. I spent more time in the room with the shrine, looking at the photograph of Hannah. Her sad eyes no longer seemed accusatory or longing, but rather expectant, like she was waiting for something more. I started to feel a strange connection to her, a bond that transcended time and death. We were twins, after all, two halves of a whole, separated by tragedy, but perhaps reunited in some inexplicable way. One evening, as dusk began to settle, I sat on the tatami in the living room, a sense of quiet melancholy washing over me. I closed my eyes, trying to connect with whatever energy remained of Hannah. I focused on the word ku. Return. What did she want me to return? Suddenly, a memory surfaced, clearer than any before. I saw two young girls, identical in every way, playing in the garden. They were laughing, their voices echoing in the warm air. One of them, Hannah, held a small, intricately carved wooden bird in her hands. The other girl, me, or rather, my past self, reached out to touch it. Hannah giggled and pulled it away, teasingly. Then the image shifted. I saw Hannah lying in her futon, pale and still. The wooden bird lay beside her, clutched in her lifeless hand. My past self stood beside her, tears streaming down her face, reaching for the bird but unable to take it. The memory faded, leaving me with a profound sense of sadness and understanding. The wooden bird. That's what Hannah wanted me to return. It wasn't about my name. It was about a childhood treasure, a symbol of their bond, something lost to time and tragedy. But where was it? I hadn't seen a wooden bird anywhere in the house. I searched every room, every nook and cranny, but there was no sign of it. I even looked in the wooden box in the shrine, but it only contained the dried flower and the two notes. Days turned into weeks, and the mystery of the wooden bird remained unsolved. The house felt quieter now, the oppressive atmosphere lifted. I still felt Hannah's presence, but it was no longer unsettling. It was more like a gentle companionship, a silent understanding between two sisters who had finally found each other again. Then, one rainy afternoon, I was cleaning out an old storage closet in the back of the house. It was filled with forgotten relics of previous occupants, dusty kimonos, broken pottery, yellowed photographs. In the corner, tucked away beneath a pile of old newspapers, I found a small, intricately carved wooden bird. It was worn and faded, but the details were still exquisite. It was the bird from my memory, the one Hannah had held in the garden. A wave of emotion washed over me. Sadness, relief, and an overwhelming sense of connection. I took the wooden bird to the shrine and placed it next to Hannah's photograph. As I did, I felt a warmth spread through the room, a feeling of peace and closure. The whispering never returned. But sometimes, when the house is quiet and the wind rustles through the bamboo, I think I can still hear her. Not a whisper of unease, but a soft sigh, a gentle acknowledgement. Here's the thing, though. This isn't the end of the story. This is where it gets truly strange. A few weeks after finding the wooden bird, I was looking through some old family photos. My family photos, the ones from my life before moving to Japan. There was a picture of me as a child, maybe around 7 years old, holding something in my hand. I squinted at the faded image. It was a small, intricately carved wooden bird. It was identical to the one I had found in the storage closet. I don't remember ever owning that bird. My parents don't remember buying it for me. It simply existed in that photograph, a ghost from a past I couldn't recall. Have you ever questioned the nature of reality? The boundaries between past and present, between one life and another? What if Hannah's desire for the bird to be returned wasn't just about a lost toy? What if it was about something more profound? What if, in some inexplicable way, the wooden bird had traveled with my soul through lifetimes, a tangible link to a past I was meant to remember? And what does it mean that I, in this life, had a wooden bird identical to the one from my past life? Was it a coincidence? Or was it a sign? A subtle reminder that the threads of our existence are far more intricate and mysterious than we can ever comprehend? Think about it. Two identical wooden birds, separated by time and seemingly unconnected lives, yet both somehow linked to me and Hannah. The moral dilemma here is this. If we carry fragments of our past lives with us, influencing our present without our conscious knowledge, how much of who we are is truly our own? Are we merely echoes of those who came before, destined to repeat patterns and fulfill forgotten desires? The paradox is this. I returned the bird to Hannah, fulfilling her wish from a past life I barely remembered. But the bird had already been with me in this life, a silent passenger on my journey. Which life did it truly belong to? And what does its presence in both timelines signify? The unfinished thread is this. I still don't know how I came to have that wooden bird in my childhood. Was it a random occurrence? Or was it a subtle nudge from the other side? A gentle reminder of a bond that transcended death? I keep the wooden bird from the storage closet on the shrine now, next to Hannah's photograph. And sometimes, when I look at it, I can almost feel her presence beside me, a silent twin, forever connected by a shared past and a mysterious shared object. The house is quiet now, but the questions linger, and I can't help but wonder what other forgotten pieces of myself might be hidden, waiting to be rediscovered in the whispering echoes of time.